Hi everybody, I'm Creative Katie, Karen Burchill. Welcome to my channel. I have to admit it, I'm a cheater. I do not possess great drawing skills. Definitely, I don't do well drawing faces. So I find ways to work around that deficit, and this will showcase one of those. So here is a background. This was brayered on paint that I had left over from another project. I have permanent red violet, Prussian blue, and Naples yellow. And that's what's in the base. And simply I brayered it on going up and down and left and right. So now I'm going to add a little bit more detailing to it. I'm using the Prussian blue, colors that I used in the beginning, and this is Screen View stencil. One of my favorites. It's a good basic one that I use an awful lot. I like the patterning that it gives me. And I'm just adding this color down there. It's kind of knocking the brayered beginning background further into the background and adding some interesting pattern to my background. Now, at the first stage, the brayering on, I had no idea where this was going to go. At this stage, I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. I have leftover paint and I'm just adding to it. This is the bottom of some packaging from lettuce, and I'm brayering on white paint and using it as a stamp to get the patterning on the background. Now, I like the patterning there, but it's a little bit too forward, a little bit too much. So I need to solve that problem. I'm just having fun creating. When I did this background, like I said, I didn't have a plan for the page. In fact, the page happened like 2 months later. Now here, this stencil, again from the Crafter's Workshop, and I'm putting on Naples yellow. My goal with this is to add that Naples yellow, again, the color that was in the base, in a more solid way. But I also wanted to knock back some of that white stamping because I thought that was a little bit too much. I'm using a stencil brush through this. And this stencil is called Leafy Fans. Again, one of my favorites, which I have used a lot. And this is the 6-inch version. So I'm just kind of lining it up and extending the stenciling. At this stage, it's very random because I don't have a focal image on here. I don't have a preconceived notion about what's going on. And sometimes that's a great time to create because you're not limiting yourself. You're just going very intuitively, using your right side of you, the creative side of your brain, and you'll come up with some different things by doing that. You're not limiting yourself in any way. Now, this face comes from NINNYSNAPKINS.com. It's their rice paper. It's their brand of rice paper. And I love the face. And I am just going to steal just the face. So what I'm doing is I've got a paintbrush there. I'm putting water on it, letting it soak into the rice paper, and that's just cutting it. And it's giving a deckled edge that is going to disappear more easily on my background. Now I'm taking off all this orange and yellow in the background because I don't want that color. I just want the face. And these faces, there you get them this size, which are about the size of copy paper, and then you have them quarter size of that. So you can go and check them out if you are drawing challenged like I am and but want to create with faces. So there is the face, and I'm just kind of auditioning where I think which way I want this to go. I'm going to make hair out of my background. That is my plan. Now this I am not throwing out. This is perfectly good collage paper. So I'm just going to fold it. I have a package of rice paper, bits and pieces that I keep in those plastic envelopes. Now, before I glue down this girl, because my background has dark in it, and if I glue down the rice paper, some of that darkness could come out. I'm flipping it over and I'm giving it a coat of gesso. Now you don't want really runny gesso here, and you want to kind of dry brush it, even if you have to put several, because you don't want it to seep through the front. And I don't want to get any of that gesso on the front to mar my face. But I'm just basically turning this to more opaque so that the darkness and the whatever's in my background doesn't come through. If I didn't do the background, if I glued this down first, I could skip this step and then build the background and decorate the background around it. And that would avoid having to do this step. But again, there is always more than one way of doing it. So now that I've got the gesso on, I'm just going to give this a quick dry before I'm going to glue this down with fluid matte medium. And this rice paper glues down like a dream. And rice paper is a little bit more substantial, can handle a little bit more wear and tear. You can even lift it up and move it if you need it to, and you're not going to rip it, as opposed to doing it with a napkin. So I didn't quite do a great job of my water cutting. I have some dark edges that I just didn't like here. So I'm just taking a little bit of gesso, dabbing it on, and then, patting it with my finger just to get rid of it. In the end, I probably didn't need to do this step because of everything else I did, but I'm kind of figuring this out as I go. So sometimes you end up duplicating something or backtracking because you don't know where it's going to go. You're solving the problems as you come up with them. There's some darkness. I must have missed some gesso on there. It was kind of some dark marks that were coming through from the Prussian blue, and I'm just using gesso to wipe that out. I'm going to be overpainting this face as well. I'm going to change, it's kind of more orange tone, and I kind of change the skin tone for better match my overall page. Now, because when I did this leafy greens um, stenciling and the other stenciling, I didn't know what I was going to put at focal point. Now I grabbed out those same stencils and I'm overlapping it onto the face so that the face, it looks like the background was with the face. This was the original as opposed to what I cut out and put in that plastic envelope. So I'm just adding it and I'm even going over it. Some of it's on her neck, some of it's on the top of her head. Um, I just want it to kind of flow together. And I'm adding a little bit of that Prussian blue back in as well. Now I know where I'm going with this and what I need, so I can add it back in. So I've grabbed my Stabilo All pencil. This is a white one, and I'm just making her hair. So the top of the page is going to be her hair, and the bottom of the page is just the background. And I'm going to make both using the same background. So here I am grabbing some Prussian blue, and I am shading along there to define where the hair and the background meet. And I'm making a mistake here because I shaded with the shading going up and the shading should be underneath. So you're going to see me correct that in a minute. I'm using my angle brush and acrylic paint to shade to define the hair from the background. And I'm using Prussian blue. Spoiler alert. So here I realized my mistake, so I'm just grabbing a baby wipe and I'm wiping it off. Everything underneath this is permanent. It's all acrylic paint. So I'm not losing anything by doing this and fixing my mistake. So now I'm shading it where the shading is underneath, not on top. So I'm just building up the shading, making that work. So I could have made her hair go anyways. I could have given her a ponytail. I could have, you know. So now I want to define the top and the bottom a little bit more. So I'm grabbing that um, permanent red paint. It's like a permanent red violet. That's what it's called. It's New Amsterdam paint. And I'm watering it down and I'm giving a wash. And what the wash does, it's basically turning it pink, but all that detailing, texture, pattern is still there. It's just pushed back a whole lot more with the color predominantly pink. So remember that rice paper originally had yellows and oranges? My background is going to be pink, and I'm going to turn that face into one that matches a pink background. So I just wipe it off, add a little bit more till I get the level of color that makes me happy. So you can see all the detailing shows, and now her hair is there. So it's all the same background, but now it looks like it's two different. The hair was painted differently, but there's a lot of commonalities, and that builds cohesiveness on your page. Now, I didn't think I had enough pink in the top, so I do take my brush and I'm rubbing a little bit more pink here and there. I'm not doing it all over wash like I did on the lower part. I am doing just a little bit more because I just wanted it a little more cohesive. It was missing. So again, I'm tweaking the background as I fine tune what this page is going to be and how I'm going to use that background. So here I've grabbed some craft paint in a flesh tone, and I am altering the flesh tone of this. And the reason for that, it was matched to the orange and yellow background. And there are some dark spots on it that I didn't like. So I am getting rid of them. I'm lightening the face somewhat to make it stand out more from the background that I now have. I'm adding some of that pink into her eyeshadow and on her face as well, so it reads all together. So while I used the face of the rice paper, I cheated. I am now building it up and making it my own. And later on, you're going to see take a picture of the rice paper, the original rice paper, with the altered one that I created. And then I grabbed the black paint and I'm shading under the hairline. I needed a little bit more definition there than what I had from the previous shading. And so I'm just building up the shading. And then I'm shading around the girl as well, under her chin. And I'm following again what the artist of the rice paper did. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm working with what I have there and jumping off from what they had. At the same time, making it my own. I grab the red violet and I'm painting her lips. Again, I want her lips not to be orange. I want it to match the background that I now have. So I'm painting that out, adding a little bit in the eyes as well. And then I believe I add some for the cheeks because again, I put the different flesh color on top, and now I needed to add in some of the highlights and lowlights that were on the face. This is the second um, girl, rice paper girl from NINNYSNAPKINS.com. There's a link in the description box. This is the second girl where I've transformed it and changed the entire background and changed the color of it. And I will link that video if you're interested because I do some different things on that one than I've done on this one. And I have a few more, so you're bound to see more face videos where I'm cheating. Now I'm just shading around the perimeter of my page, edging it. This just frames my picture. And I can't tell you, I absolutely loved how this turned out. But never in a million years would was this planned. I just happened to have the picture, the rice paper was there, and that background that has been sitting there for 1 or 2 months on my desk, and I haven't been able to find a focal image. I'm adding a few shading lines in the hair just to add some movement, very subtle. Shading on the lips. And here I have my gold paint that I've thinned down. I'm using my fan brush and I'm going to splatter gold. It just works so well with the rich colors that have been created in this background. And I'm trying to avoid getting any of the splatter on her face. I just want it primarily on the lower part of the background, but some in the hair as well. Then I decide, I want to add some script on the bottom part. So I'm brayering on gold paint onto a script stamp, and I'm just going to stamp with that. That's just adding a very nice little detail, a little more bling. Loving the look. And that makes it also further defines the bottom from the top because I'm not putting any script up top in her hair. So while there's a lot of similarities, there are also some differences. I just love the color with the yellow that was in the background from the Naples yellow when I did the overall pink wash on it. It just made such a rich, vibrant, warm color. So I'm very, very happy with what happened on this page. I grabbed my Choosing Joy sentiment pack. This is a digital sentiment pack that you can purchase from NINNYSNAPKINS.com. And I grabbed a sentiment that I thought went well with this girl. But I wanted to get rid of some of the white. So I'm just cutting some of that white off just to get rid of it. There's not a whole lot of white in the background, and I didn't want just to see that. And I cut it apart. You can use the sentiments as they are in the word art that I've created, or you can cut them in any way you want. So again, I'm using my fluid matte medium to glue this down, making sure that everything underneath is fully dry before I do this. You don't want to smudge your paint splatters or your stamping. Give this a good coat. Once it's dry, I'm using a General's charcoal pencil around it to kind of shade around this. I also wanted to kind of smudge up the pristineness of the white paper. I didn't like it so bright white. So this kind of smudged it up. And while I like having the sentiment there, I didn't want it so predominant. And I'm just adding the charcoal pencil is just adding a few shading here and there. I know at this stage that I'm not adding any more wet medium, so this charcoal pencil will not smudge because it is the final thing. And there is the finished page. I love the rich, vibrant colors. I love how the background still shines through on the bottom part, how the top and the bottom are the same but different. All in all, a good creative win. And there is the original paper. So I hope you cheat if you need to. Until next time, go get creative.